Buckingham Palace is one of the most iconic buildings in Britain and serves as the official London residence and administrative headquarters of the British monarch. But few people know the palace hasn't always held this prominent position. The site was once home to a more modest manor house purchased in 1703 by John Sheffield, the first Duke of Buckingham, after whom the house was named. Over the next century, this structure underwent drastic expansion and redesign to transform it into the magnificent palace seen today. Its progression reflected the growth of the constitutional monarchy and Britain's expanding world power. I'm going to provide a brief historical overview of how Buckingham Palace evolved through the centuries into the grand royal palace and beloved national landmark it is today. We'll look at the key monarchs like King George III and Queen Victoria, who shaped the palace and established it as the primary seat for the modern monarchy. Buckingham Palace has been the official London residence of Britain's monarchs since 1837, but the history of the palace goes back much further. It was acquired by King George III in 1761 as a private residence for Queen Charlotte. Over the next 75 years, the house was expanded into a grand palace, though one deemed still too small for royal occasions. It wasn't until the reign of Queen Victoria that Buckingham Palace became the official royal palace of the British monarch. The land on which Buckingham Palace sits was originally part of a 12th century manor house owned by the Guildford family. In 1531, King Henry VIII acquired the land and had a hunting lodge built on the site. The lodge became known as the Mulberry Gardens, after the many mulberry trees planted in its grounds. After changing hands several times, the property was purchased in 1703 by John Sheffield, the first Duke of Buckingham and Normanby. The Duke demolished the Mulberry Garden and commissioned architect William Windle to build a large townhouse in its place. Construction of the three-story structure, later known as Buckingham House, was completed in 1705. The Duke intended for the house to be a focal point for the new developing district of Westminster. However, he saw little use of it after its completion. The house was purchased unfinished in 1761 by King George III for his wife, Queen Charlotte, to use as a comfortable family home close to St. James's Palace, where many court functions were held. The king had the house completed and remodeled extensively by architects William Chambers and Adam Roberts in a neoclassical style. Queen Charlotte took residence in 1762 and came to treasure Buckingham House as a welcome escape from the stresses of court life. 14 of the royal couple's 15 children were born in the house. During this period, the staterooms were also expanded with the addition of a throne room and a state dining room, but Buckingham House was still considered too small for many royal receptions and festivities attended by heads of state. So its main function remained a private home for the royal family. The public staterooms were open for viewing on a schedule whenever the family was away from London. King George IV decided Buckingham House needed to be vastly expanded during his reign from 1820 to 1830. He commissioned architect John Nash to enlarge the house into a proper palace with a magnificent new north front facade. Nash kept the existing structure but added a suite of royal apartments, a ballroom, and a columned portico facing the Mall and Marble Arch. The lavish redevelopment cost a staggering £500,000, which would be equal to £30 million today. But King George IV died just as work was getting underway in 1830. His brother and successor, King William IV, lacked funds to complete the Nash rooms, so the unfinished palace sat abandoned for decades, becoming an embarrassing symbol of royal excess. Finally, when Queen Victoria took the throne in 1837, she chose to make Buckingham Palace the official royal palace and primary London residence for the monarch. This was a break from her predecessors, who had all resided in St. James's and Kensington Palace. The law of the parkland surroundings made Buckingham Palace an appealing getaway from the bustle of the city. To finish the Nash rooms, Queen Victoria hired architect Edward Blore to complete the building's facade and main rooms. She moved into the palace 3 years later in 1840 with her husband, Prince Albert. The couple found the palace cramped, dowdy, and lacking the grandeur expected of a royal residence. So over the next 30 years, they set about a long process of extending and refurbishing the palace into the magnificent structure seen today. At Prince Albert's urging, all the clutter of decorations from King George IV's time were cleared out and replaced with intricate mouldings, marble fireplaces, and a new grand staircase. The ballroom was finished in time for Queen Victoria's coronation banquets, and modern amenities like lighting, heating, and indoor plumbing were added throughout. The east front facing the gardens was added between 1847 and 1850. Designed by Edward Bloor, it added a new facade with 3 projecting wings containing a quadrangle. The marble arch, which had been positioned in front of Nash's new portico, was moved to its present location at Hyde Park Corner to create space. The cost of the east front construction was covered by selling off part of the palace's garden. After Prince Albert's untimely death in 1861, Queen Victoria went into mourning and sorrowfully retreated from public life. In her deep grief, she came to despise Buckingham Palace as a reminder of her happy family years with her beloved Albert. She refused to sleep in the royal bedroom again and briefly considered abandoning the palace, but her courtiers prevailed and convinced the Queen to return to her official duties and ceremonial obligations. Though she still resided mainly at Windsor Castle, Balmoral, and Osborne House until the end of her reign. The final main wing to complete Buckingham Palace was added between 1913 and 1914, during the reign of King George V. Built by architect Sir Aston Webb, this addition contained the iconic balcony overlooking the Mall, where the royal family gathers to wave to crowds during major events. Buckingham Palace was now essentially complete. Through 2 world wars, the palace itself emerged unscathed, but its operations were impacted during World War II, when bombs destroyed the chapel and shattered windows across the grounds. Due to safety concerns, King George VI and his family spent many nights sheltering in the basement. The palace was also commandeered as headquarters for the Auxiliary Territorial Service, where the future Queen Elizabeth II trained as a mechanic. Today, Buckingham Palace spans over 800,000 square feet, containing 775 rooms, including 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms. Over 50,000 guests visit annually for royal receptions, dinners, and garden parties. More than 800 staff work to maintain the palace and its grounds. The opulent staterooms remain at the heart of the palace. Highlights include the grand staircase, ascending to a dome-ceiling fresco by Sir Charles Barry, the throne room where the coronation banquets are held under vast murals by John Nash's student Sir Thomas Lawrence, and the glittering ballroom completed in Queen Victoria's time that holds state banquets for 160 guests. In many ways, Buckingham Palace provides a living timeline of royal history, going back 300 years. The earliest surviving part of the palace is its western range, built for the Duke of Buckingham in 1703, while the freshly restored east wing reflects King George V's major 20th century extension and the modern monarchy he defined. Buckingham Palace's endurance as a royal residence and a national landmark for over 300 years reflects the ongoing popularity and stability of Britain's constitutional monarchy. From its origins as a minor 17th century nobility home to the large palace it is today, Buckingham Palace has grown and evolved alongside the monarchy itself, linked together by an enduring tradition.